Happy Victory Monday, Steelers fans. I'm your host, Jack Sperry, and it's our first Victory Monday live show here on Steelers Talk for the 2025 Steelers season. We got a jam-packed show for you guys today. We've got the latest news and rumors surrounding the Pittsburgh Steelers. Going to be talking a little Jabril Peppers, some other free agency targets for this team to consider. We'll also talk a little bit about Colin Cowherd changing his tune on the Pittsburgh Steelers yesterday in his post-game reaction to Aaron Rodgers' 4-touchdown Steelers debut versus the New York Jets. Then in our second segment today, guys, we're going to be talking about college quarterbacks that I think through 2 weeks of college football, small sample size, but I think we can kind of decipher what these guys kind of look like through these first 2 weeks. Which guys look like round one quarterbacks? I have 4 guys that I think for sure look like round one quarterbacks, as well as some other guys to continue to watching as the season progresses. And then we'll finish up today's show by putting week 1 in the rear view mirror here and moving forward to our week 2 matchup versus the Seattle Seahawks. I've got our extensive in-depth preview for week 2 for the home opener, Aaron Rodgers' Acrisure Stadium debut as a Pittsburgh Steeler versus Sam Darnold and the Seattle Seahawks. So get the party started right now down there in the comments section by spamming those me's down there in the comments. We got 137 people already watching the live show, but only 23 likes. We need to get that up to at least 40 likes before we get into our first segment today, guys. So shout out to Fluven, shout out to Titus Kitchen, shout out to Steli, shout out to Isaac Flam Flam, shout out to my lovely fiance Cassie Vose, shout out to Pizza is Goated, shout out to Eric Gender, shout out to Michael, shout out to Gen 5, shout out to Eddie, shout out to Michael, shout out to Will, shout out to the True Oreo, shout out to Zachary, Domos, Black and Yellow Podcast, shout out to Rez, shout out to Rodolfo, shout out to Zachary Showers, shout out to Ethan Dennis. Keep spamming those thumbs up icons if you're a real one. We got Mr. Deadhead, I Drop Sounds, Rodolfo is here, Drake Johnson is here. And I saw a pretty darn good question at the top of the comment section today, Ponzi. And he was asking specifically, I think it was the first comment in there, saying, Broderick Jones, in your estimation, do you think he'll be better or worse than he was yesterday? I'm hoping for better. I'm praying for better because it was not good enough yesterday, man. He was allowing a very easy penetration, not only against the run, but also against the pass. He gave up 3 of the 4 sacks that Aaron Rodgers had yesterday. So he needs to play better. I think he knows that, and I'm hoping that he can play better. If he doesn't, I think the Steelers could be looking to make a move at left tackle before the trade deadline because, frankly, Ponzi, if you have Broderick Jones in there and he sucks in the playoffs, you're going to be limited in terms of where you can go with this football team with an immobile quarterback. So with that here, let's bring on our producer here today, Mr. Ponzi. Ponzi, it's great to see you, my friend. How are you doing here on a beautiful Monday?
It's not just a Monday, it's a Victory Monday. Our first Victory Monday. Mm-hmm. I'm doing great. We got in, we made sure we gave you the best content for y'all. I'm ready. I'm excited for our segments today.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I've got lots of great stuff coming your way. We can talk a little bit of college quarterbacks, a little bit of week 2 for Seattle Seahawks, our in-depth preview, and of course the latest news and rumors. But let's talk a little bit about the defense here, Ponzi, because I think a lot of people are praising the Steelers' offense and Aaron Rodgers and how this offense looked yesterday, gutting out a win versus a tough New York Jets team. And by the way, I think that Jets team, it probably gets second place in the AFC East. I mean, the Dolphins looked terrible. The Patriots looked really bad as well still. I think Drake May and that team is probably still maybe a year away. Miami is probably approaching a full-blown rebuild here with a new head coach in the future. So I think the Jets are a team that can be competitive and maybe even compete for a playoff spot this year. When I watched the film today, Justin Fields looked really good. He was making good decisions with the football. He was accurate with the football. He was getting rid of the ball faster than what I've seen from him in years past. And then, that offensive line is legit. Now, obviously, the Steelers' defensive line needs to be more competitive, and we're going to talk about ways that this team can do that in weeks to come because there's certainly some things that they can tweak to make this run defense better, at least in my opinion. But that O-line did their jobs, all right? Josh Myers looked really good as a center. He was supposed to be a backup for them. He he starts week 1 because of the Elijah Vera Tucker injury at right guard. Tippmann moves over to right guard, and they didn't skip a beat. Both of their young offensive tackles looked great, all that different stuff. Fields played really well. Garrett Wilson played really well. So I think when we look back 6-7 weeks from now, people are like, oh, the Steelers gave up 32 to the Jets. They suck. I think but when we get to the point of midway through the season, we're going to be seeing the New York Jets as a good football team, and that win in week 1 for the Pittsburgh Steelers is going to look a lot better than it does right now. But what are your thoughts on the Steelers defense here, Ponzi? Scale of 1 to 10, what's your concern level?
If I'm being completely honest, if we're talking about the pass defense, I thought it did better than or not better, but it did better in the second half. I would still rate that a 7 of just worrying about the run defense, though. I mean, you go out in the offseason, you address the run defense, you try to get bigger up front, and Justin Fields and crew ran all over you. And I think that's more a testament to Justin Fields and the Jets, like you were saying. But I don't really know if I could really trust the Steelers defense against the Derrick Henry, who ran all over the Buffalo Bills defense last night. I mean, it's very concerning because they were trying to address the run in the offseason. It doesn't really seem like those moves are making a lot of differences.
So we do have a little bit of Steelers news here. The Steelers have signed wide receiver Raheem Jarrett to their practice squad and have released Lance McCutcheon. So a practice squad wide receiver signing here. Nothing too consequential. Jarrett is a veteran. He's been around, but he's not going to be a needle mover or anything like that, so we won't cover it too much in our news and rumors segment today. But just so you guys know, the Steelers are bringing in Raheem Jarrett, formerly with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, for a practice squad deal. And they're going to be cutting Lance McCutcheon, who also plays wide receiver here. So that's going to be kind of the practice squad move there at wide receiver. I think Calvin Austin III showed some really good things yesterday, Ponzi. I think he solidified this himself as this team's number 2 receiver, and I posted it on X today, Ponzi. I think if Aaron Rodgers and Calvin Austin III stay healthy this year, Calvin will get to at least 1,000 yards receiving. I think that, yesterday he's well on his way. I mean, 70 yards. If he can put up 70, 60 yards a game, get a couple touchdowns, every few weeks or so, that's a legitimate number 2 wide receiver in this league when you got a guy like DK Metcalf as your number 1. I just think that Calvin runs really good routes. He's got tougher hands than people give him credit for, and he's got game-wrecking speed. So I really like that trio of traits that he has, and I'm excited to see him play the rest of the year.
And I definitely think, the biggest winner from yesterday's game is those wide receiver room right there. I mean, the first 2 spots, and then obviously your 2 tight ends played fairly well. And Pat Freiermuth, they had actually really good run blocking yesterday. I didn't really see him have a lot of mistakes on that front. Obviously Jonnu Smith's going to get a lot of manufactured touches in the Arthur Smith offense. But, I got to say, the Steelers offense impressed me so much. I was not expecting them to go into Jet Life and score that many points.
Yeah, I mean, most people expected this to be a very low-scoring game. People were spamming the under on the total point spread there, and I think that both the Jets and the Steelers' offenses are going to be better than people think that they're going to be this year. And I'm excited to see what specifically Aaron Rodgers, who's kind of playing that Tom Brady-esque kind of distributor type of role. He was number 1 in the NFL this week, or at least heading into Monday Night Football, in average time to throw. So he's getting the ball out fast. He is throwing it close to the line of scrimmage. I think he was 29th in average air yards. So he's not really throwing the ball down the field that much, but he did pick and choose his spots, Ponzi. And that's what I want to see from him. I want to see him pick and choose those spots of when he's throwing the ball down the field, when the defense is giving it to him. He's not afraid to pull that trigger, but he's not afraid to be that distributor either. Let DK Metcalf run after the catch. Calvin Austin III run after the catch. This is what these guys can do. Jonnu Smith as well. Jaylen Warren as well. Get the ball to your playmakers in space. This is what the Chiefs do. This is what San Francisco does. This is what good offenses in the National Football League do. And this is what Tom Brady did for 20 years, won 7 Super Bowls playing this way. All right, he was not mobile for any of his 20 whatever years in the National Football League. Aaron Rodgers still has the mental processing, still has the pocket presence, still has the arm talent, still has everything that you need to be a distributor type of quarterback in the NFL. And I think that, if they can put the right surrounding cast around him, just like Brady in Tampa Bay late in his career, Ponzi, I think that, if Brady could do it in Tampa, I think that Rodgers can do it here in Pittsburgh.
I agree completely. I mean, I believe, Rodgers was the more talented quarterback. in terms of his skill set from between the two. But I mean, like looking at Rodgers and what he can do, especially with his regression, he can't run that much anymore. But I really think that he's adapted his playset because he used to be really great and really elite at maneuvering the pocket and getting out of space and delivering a ball on the run.
And sorry to interrupt, but unlike Russell Wilson, who has not adjusted his game, and to be more of a distributor type, be more like Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, those type of guys. Rodgers, it seems like, especially over these last 2 years, has been like, all right, I understand. I'm not the same athlete I used to be. I'm just going to sit inside this pocket, get the ball out fast so I don't take too many sacks. And when the defense gives me opportunities to take shots down the field, I'm going to take them. So I'm really excited to see what's going to happen here with Aaron Rodgers in this offense. It was a great start to the season, and I think this Steelers defense has too much talent on it for it to stink like it did yesterday the entire season. So I do think that this defense will figure it out, but maybe that's just the homer in me. Maybe that's just me drinking the hopium here. But I just believe in the talent in this Steelers defense, and I think they're going to figure it out. All right, before we get into our segments here, guys, if you want to donate to the show, we greatly appreciate any donations that you guys send in via Super Chat here on YouTube or via Venmo or PayPal. Our donation menu today, $5, you get a raffle ticket. $10, you get 3 raffle tickets. $20, you get 10 raffle tickets. Plus, you get your name on the Steelers Talk Gong right here. We got a bunch of names on there already. $50. Ponzi and I, or Ponzi's not wearing his hat today.
I'm wearing my hat right now. My bad.
I'm wearing my hat right now. So if you want to join Steelers Talk Hat Club, $50 gets you into Hat Club, and then $250 total on the show. As a collective here, we're going to hit the gong, all right? So if we can get to $100 in Super Chat, Venmo, PayPal revenue today, we will give away one of our Steelers Talk hats and give away a Hat Club membership, all right? So if we can get to $100 in Super Chats or PayPals or Venmos, the whole shebang there, we will give away a Steelers Talk hat today. And if you guys want double the raffle tickets to walk away with a Steelers Talk hat today, you guys can go to @Jack-Sperry on Venmo or @CaptainJackRabbit on PayPal. The reason why we give you double the raffle tickets for those two platforms is because we get to keep more of the proceeds. We're not going to say no to any super chat that comes in, but YouTube does take a 30% cut of every single dollar that you guys send in. But with Venmo and PayPal, we get to keep more of that money. So we do appreciate you guys sending in I can't talk today, Ponzi, your donations via Venmo and PayPal. Again, @Jack-Sperry and @CaptainJackRabbit on PayPal. $2 from my favorite guy asking all the questions every time we go live. Bernard Nixon, my man, says, Skip just said A-Rod is washed. Yeah, I think that what Skip said, I think this was after the game yesterday, he says, I think he only joined the Steelers to play the Jets, and now he's going to mail it in, is essentially what he said. He just joined the Steelers to play hard and well against the Jets, and now he's going to mail it in. He's going to suck the rest of the way. I mean, Skip Bayless is a fucking joke. He's been a joke for years. Doesn't know anything about football. All right, so just don't listen to Skip Bayless, man. He's an absolute joke. And then we got $20 from Raymond Van Riper. Let's go, Raymond. Everybody spam Raymond in the chat, showing some love. He says, our weakness is the O-line. I heard them focus on Broderick Jones as he struggled. Still my concern. Passion from our O-line. Jets had verve. I felt Aaron Rodgers worked well with what he had. 2 seconds more. So I would say this. Troy Fautano and Mason McCormick, the right side of your offensive line, I think actually had a pretty darn good day, especially in pass protection. Zach Frazier, looked okay. I don't know if he looked as good as at some points last year in his rookie season, but he was still very serviceable. Same thing with Sayamalo. Broderick Jones was by far and away the biggest weakness on the Steelers' offensive line. And that's in both phases, both as a pass protector and as a run blocker. Broderick was the one that was letting people through. All right, so he's the weak link. There's no doubt about that. There's things that you can do to help him out. You can send running back chip help out there. You can put a tight end next to him and have the tight end help him out. You would rather Broderick be able to take on one-on-one blocks, especially as a former first-round pick. But you got to kind of tailor your scheme and your offense around the talents and the weaknesses of the players that you have on your roster. And unless you're going to go with like Calvin Anderson or Andrews Pete to replace him, which I don't think you're going to do, Broderick's probably going to be in this lineup at least until we get to close to somewhere around. And I think I'm double on screen here, Ponzi, actually. I don't know if you can see that, but I think I'm double on screen. I think I have been double for a little while. All right, so so that's a lot better right there. But our live schedule this week, guys, we're going to be going live on Friday this week, not Thursday. We usually go live on Thursdays for our second live show. This week, it's going to be Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, our normal time, but this time on Friday. That's going to be our next Steelers Talk live show, and then we'll be live again on Sunday, again, an hour-and-a-half long pregame show for Week 2, Steelers versus Seahawks for our Week 2 watch party. So that's our live schedule here for the rest of the week. We won't see you guys again until Friday, so let's make this one count here. But $20 from Brandon Nicholson coming in, says, hated seeing Minka go, but after the game, I'm excited to have Ramsey. Victory Monday feels good. Yeah, man, Minka, great guy, great teammate, great football mind, frankly. And, he's a good guy and a good player, all right? But he's not a superstar anymore. He's just a good player, and he was just making too much money, frankly, to justify not trading him away if it means getting a guy like Jalen Ramsey, who proved his worth, I think, yesterday. Not only with his play on the field, he had 2 pass breakups. I think he allowed only 3 yards receiving on the day. He had a really high PFF grade, if whatever weight you want to put into the PFF grading. But Justin Fields avoided him for most of the day. And when he did target the receiver in his area, they usually got blown up. And even Justin himself got blown up by Ramsey during that kind of last sequence in the first half. But, not only the play on the field from Ramsey, but also the mentality, all right? Like the in-your-face, trash-talking, dog mentality that this defense needs to have to be the kind of unit that this team has the potential to have. That's what I love to see from Jalen Ramsey. And I want every opponent that we play this year to hate Jalen Ramsey by the end of the game, all right? I want him to be the instigator. I want him to get people riled up. I want people to want to love playing with and for Jalen Ramsey on this defense. And I think it was a fantastic start for number 5. All right, so until we unless we get we did get a PayPal. All right, we got a PayPal here, folks. So I'll send this to Ponzi, and we'll cover this, and then we'll get into our segments today. Victory Monday sure feels good here, and we got some great Steelers content to get to you guys here on this afternoon. But our segments today, we will have a news and rumors segment here at the top of the show. Then we'll go into some college quarterbacks. I have 4 college quarterbacks that I think look like first-round quarterbacks so far in the college football season. Talk about the chances of the Steelers landing those 4 quarterbacks, and then we'll get into our Week 2 preview versus the Seattle Seahawks. We got a couple more Super Chats rolling in as well, but Paul Boone coming in with a $25 PayPal. Let's go, Paul Boone. My man Paul, and he says, Ramsey is my dude, but I'm concerned about the middle of our defense. I'm concerned about the interior defensive line, and there were certainly points where Patrick Queen and Peyton Wilson were not good, specifically in run defense yesterday. So I'm hoping to see better play from those 2 units in the future. I think that's certainly the weakness of the Steelers defense at this point. But hopefully those guys can be able to play better in the weeks to come. $2 from Bernard says, A-Rod or Breeze, all time, give me Aaron Rodgers. All time, he's just, if you take A-Rod at his prime versus Breeze at his prime, A-Rod could do more things. He could pick apart a defense with his brain like Breeze could, but also he could get outside the pocket, make crazy throws with his arm talent, much better than Breeze was. He can throw from more angles, off platform, that sort of stuff. Breeze was very much a platform thrower. So even though Breeze is one of the best distributor-type quarterbacks in NFL history, Aaron Rodgers, especially in his prime, was more than that. He could be a distributor, but he could also be a playmaker out of structure, make a bunch of different types of throws. So I'm going Aaron Rodgers over Drew Brees. $10 from Alex Lanier, my man, says, do you think DK was used enough yesterday? Yes, I do. I said in our preview last week, guys, if you remember, it had to be more than DK because you have Sauce Gardner on him, and they're going to put safety help over the top. So, DK was going to be the focus of the New York Jets defense, and, other players needed to step up, and they did. And Rodgers, I believe, had over 220 yards passing to 7 different receivers, including Ben Skoranek. Okay, I think really the only guy that I really expected to get a reception that didn't was Roman Wilson. So, you got DK involved. Still, DK still had some pretty decent production, didn't get into the end zone, didn't have like a deep touchdown or anything like that. But what's really impressive about DK for me, guys, was the yards after catch. I mean, his ability to make a guy miss, and then, when he hits his stride, man, it is like he's jumping into your living room. It's absolutely insane to watch that guy run when he's out in space, and he definitely showed that off yesterday. But Calvin, man, he played an awesome game yesterday. Muth made some really tough catches over the middle of the field. Jonnu looked really good out in space as well. Skoranek was moving well as well, got that touchdown from Rodgers on the first drive of the game. So, yes, Alex, I think that DK was used enough. I didn't expect him to be a huge part of the game plan, and I did expect the Steelers to spread it around, which is exactly what they did. But now, with DK going up against Mike McDonald and the Seahawks, we're going to talk about it in our preview here, but I think they're probably going to feed him a little bit more this week. All right, so let's get into our first segment of the day here, guys. The latest news and rumors surrounding the Pittsburgh Steelers. Got a bunch of stuff to talk about today. We're going to talk about Rodgers. We're going to talk about some more Week 1 takeaways after I had the chance to watch the All-22 film from yesterday, earlier today. And then we're going to talk about some free agency options for the Pittsburgh Steelers at some positions of potential need that the Steelers can go pursue this week before they play the Seattle Seahawks. And then make sure you guys stick around because we got a college quarterback segment coming up in our second segment, and then we got our in-depth preview for this week's game against the Seattle Seahawks to kick off your week. So without further ado, let's get into our first segment of the day, the latest news and rumors surrounding the Pittsburgh Steelers. Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Today we have a bunch of Steelers news and rumors to discuss here on a Victory Monday, our first Victory Monday here on Steelers Talk this year. First up on today's show, we are going to be talking about Colin Cowherd changing his tune on Aaron Rodgers, sounding pretty positive about the new Steelers starting quarterback after trashing him all offseason long. Then we'll talk about more Week 1 takeaways from yesterday's win versus the Jets after now I've had the time to go over the All-22 film. Then we'll get into Jabril Peppers, where he hints he may be signing with the team soon. Could he be signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers? Then we'll go over some other free agency targets at some potential positions of need that the Steelers can still add to, and some of the options at the Steelers' disposal after their Week 1 win versus the Jets. Before we get into the content today, guys, if you want to be sitting here next week on a Victory Monday, and you want to be sitting here next week at 2-0, don't jinx it. Click that thumbs up icon to help the Steelers win, and also it helps out our channel, so it's an added bonus there. All right, so now let's get into our first segment of the day here on Steelers News and Rumors, which is that Colin Cowherd, who has been trashing the Pittsburgh Steelers and Aaron Rodgers all offseason long, not even he could be overly negative about Aaron Rodgers' Steelers debut versus the New York Jets. And he seems to finally be catching on to why the Steelers were attracted to Rodgers as a quarterback option for them this season. This is what Colin had to say in his post-game reaction show yesterday on his YouTube channel. It's interesting with Aaron. He's a statue. He got sacked 4 times, but I think his mindset with this team is, quote, listen, I'm going to be the distributor. He's going to be a little Chris Paul. He's going to be tough. He's occasionally going to make a great shot, but by and large, he's going to distribute and lead. But there is something about guidance and leadership and distribution considering his immobility and his first game. Aaron's mindset, he said this, quote, I am here to elevate others, unquote, and that I'm impressed with. So if Colin Cowherd, who has been trashing this move, saying it's a terrible move by the Pittsburgh Steelers, why would Aaron Rodgers want to go to the Steelers? He said that if he were Aaron Rodgers, he'd rather go to the New York freaking Jets for some reason this offseason. But this is what I've been saying for months, man. Of course Aaron Rodgers is not the crazy playmaker that he was back in his prime, but he still has all the tools to be that quote-unquote distributor type of quarterback. And, I think that's somebody that played this role for the longest time in the National Football League was Tom Brady. Tom Brady was never an out-of-structure playmaker, and he was always an immobile distributor-type quarterback. And if there's anybody that can replicate the kind of success that Brady had as kind of a pure pocket passer, it's Aaron Rodgers with his elite mind for the game of football. It's with his great arm talent. It's with his quick release. It's with his great pocket presence. All those things that Brady had, Rodgers also has, even at age 41 at this point. So people keep talking about, oh, Rodgers can't move, Rodgers can't move. Well, guess what? Tom Brady couldn't move for 20-plus years, and he won 7 Super Bowls, which is more than any other team in NFL history, okay? So this kind of quarterback can absolutely win a Super Bowl. And some of the principles of playing like a Tom Brady is stuff like this, all right? When we've talked about this on the show before, you live in the pocket, you don't really try and create out of structure all that much, you play with elite processing and get the ball out quickly, you protect the football, and you play efficiently. You take checkdowns, you take screen passes, you get the ball out of your hands quickly so you don't take too many sacks, and then when the defense gives you opportunities to throw down the field and quickly, you take advantage of that. Does that sound familiar, Steelers fans? That is exactly the way Aaron Rodgers played in Week 1 versus the Jets. He was number 1 in average time to throw, and he was also, I think he was like 29th in average depth of target. So he's not really, he's being very strategic with when he takes his shots downfield, and he's getting the ball out quickly to try and minimize the amount of negative plays that the offense takes. Guess what, guys? Tom Brady won a Super Bowl in his 40s with a new football team. In fact, in the first year with a new team, in that role as a distributor, as somebody that can get the ball out fast, as somebody that is very strategic with when he takes his shots down the field. Now, obviously, Brady had a lot of help there in Tampa Bay, had a good defense. He had some really good weapons. Bruce Arians was his head coach. All these things, certainly worked in his favor, and Aaron Rodgers will certainly need help here in Pittsburgh to win a 7th Lombardi trophy for the black and gold. But, if Tom Brady was able to play this role into his 40s and win a Lombardi trophy, there's no reason, in my opinion, Aaron Rodgers can't do the same thing if he gets the same amount of help. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comment section. Can Pittsburgh win the Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers as their QB1 this year? Give me a yes or a no down there in the comment section. For me, this is an emphatic yes, but this will be the pinned comment on today's show. So in just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today at Prize Picks. While I'm talking about Prize Picks today, let me know your opinion down there in the comment section. And with that, let's have a word from our sponsor today at Prize Picks. And you and I, we both make decisions every single day. But on Prize Picks, being right on those decisions can actually get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Football season is finally here, and you better believe I'm going to be getting my Prize Picks lineups in all season long. Prize Picks is simple to play. Just pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and if you get your picks right, you could cash in. Prize Picks also puts their users first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Prize Picks also offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. And a new feature from Prize Picks that I absolutely love is injury reboots. If one of your players leaves the game in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks will not count it as a loss. So Monday Night Football tonight, Bears versus Vikings. I'm taking the less on Kalen Williams passing yards. I'm taking the more on passing touchdowns for J.J. McCarthy. And why not? Let's throw that touchdown to Justin Jefferson. So download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup with the Prize Picks app today. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup on the Prize Picks app today. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. All right, so now I do have some more Week 1 takeaways here after watching the All-22 film. A lot of the things that I thought about and that I've talked about on our other post-game shows, our 2 post-game cuts we put out yesterday, still apply, but there is still a couple of little notes here that I do want to present to you guys here on today's show. The first one here that I want to talk about is how they utilized their weapons, which was really interesting, all right? I kind of thought that they were going to, when they went out in their kind of 3 receiver sets, they would have Roman Wilson out there a little bit more. But no, man, they really used Jonnu Smith as kind of that third wide receiver type. They were putting him in the slot. They were really using him as a manufactured touch weapon out there. And, Roman did get some time out there. Ben Skoranek also got a little bit of time there. But, Calvin Austin definitely outsnapped both of those other kind of backup type of receivers. He certainly appears to be this team's legit number 2 receiver. And honestly, it seems like Roman's role heading into this year is as a wide receiver 4, even a wide receiver 5. Like with the way Ben Skoranek played as a blocker, with the way that he had that touchdown on the opening drive against the Jets, it would not surprise me at all if Aaron Rodgers advocates for Ben to get even more time over Roman Wilson, especially if his level of trust with Ben is higher than what it is with Roman at this point. So hopefully Roman's able to turn it around. He didn't have a single target, no catches, no yards, no touchdowns, nothing, no production from him as a receiver in week 1. We're hoping that as the season goes on, he continues to get more and more of a role in this offense, but it certainly seems like he's down the totem pole at this point in time. Then we get into why I believe Pittsburgh's passing attack worked with Aaron Rodgers, and specifically the play-action game. Aaron Rodgers threw 3 of his touchdown passes on play-action, and then the other one, of course, was a pop pass. So, obviously lots of success throwing the ball down the field when Rodgers did throw the ball down the field off of play-action. And the first reason why that strategy worked is because Pittsburgh took advantage of Glenn's aggression, okay? Aaron Glenn, something you guys got to know about him is that his run defenses in Detroit have been really good over the last several seasons, but the passing defenses have been some of the worst in the National Football League. The reason for that is he teaches his defenses to be super aggressive to play the run. So they're super susceptible to play action, okay? And Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers, of course, Arthur Smith want to do a lot of play action from under center. That's what they did yesterday. Sometimes it ended up in a sack because Broderick Jones can't block to save his life. But when Rodgers had a clean pocket from that play action, I mean, it was absolute magic. So, and then the other reason why this worked and why the passing game was so good is because Rodgers is so good at finding the open man, all right? With Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, they were so dependent on their first read. They were either first read to run or they were first read to check down so often. So defenses could really hone in on really George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth, the guys that were usually the first reads in the progression, and it just led to a lot of stagnation from the Steelers offense. But now we have a quarterback in Aaron Rodgers that sees the entire field. All right, you can see him as he drops back. He's just scanning the field, looking for the right option. He knows how to pick apart defenses, and, defenses have to cover the entire field against Aaron Rodgers. So the entire field is open to you. You got a bunch of different options available to you in the passing game, which was not available to the Steelers last year, which is exactly why 7 different Steelers caught passes from Aaron Rodgers yesterday, including Ben Skoranek, who had a touchdown pass. All right, Rodgers doesn't really have like a number 1 read, and then he's getting off of it, and he's trying to go to his check down immediately. No, he has a concept. He reads the defense, and then he sees the open receiver and throws it to him. All right, that is what elite quarterbacks do, and that is what Aaron Rodgers did to the New York Jets yesterday, and it's going to be tough for defenses to stop all season long. Another thing that I took away from watching the film here is that Pittsburgh should make a big adjustment on the defensive line. Just plain and simply, guys, Keanu Benton is not a nose tackle. If you're going to be asking Keanu Benton to take on double teams, to play with good pad level and, kind of hold firm the run fit there, he's not going to do it, all right? He was on the ground a ton yesterday. He was driven backwards time and time and time again on those double teams. It was very clear that Tanner Engstrand, the offensive coordinator for the Jets, identified Keanu Benton as a weakness on the Steelers' defensive line, and they exploited it, all right? So Keanu, I think, has become a little bit of a liability on early downs for the Pittsburgh Steelers as a run defender, and he's just not a nose tackle. The Steelers have to stop using him in that way. What Benton does well is that he is a disruptor, so they got to put him in a position to shoot gaps, not take on double teams, because that's not what he does. But, I'm not even joking about this right now, guys. I know that, Benton's been in this defense for longer and all that stuff, and Y.A. Black's a rookie, but Y.A. Black's skill set fits that role in the Steelers defense better, so he should get the start. I think he's shown enough in the preseason games, and he showed enough yesterday as a run defender for me to feel comfortable putting him in the middle of this defense, asking him to two-gap, asking him to take on double teams, asking him to kind of maintain the structure of the line of scrimmage there and not give any weight there. He's 340 pounds, all right? He's called the big tummy for a reason, all right? Use him as a run defender in that way and then allow Keanu Benton to do what he does best. I mean, the thing that I loved about him coming out of Wisconsin was that he could shoot gaps, he could get big TFLs, he could make sacks happen, but if you put him in the middle of the defense as the nose tackle and he's getting a bunch of double teams, he's just not getting a ton of opportunities to be him. And I think that he's being played out of position by this Steelers coaching staff right now. And, it's just perfect that the Steelers happen to draft a perfect nose tackle for this team to allow them to use Benton more often. So that's what I would do if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers. I wouldn't play Benton at the nose tackle any longer because, frankly, he's become a liability at that spot. Then the final takeaway here that I'll share with you guys today is that I thought Mason McCormick had a good game. And, I'll also give an honorable mention here to Troy Fautanu. The right side of the Steelers offensive line yesterday, in my opinion, was pretty darn good, especially in pass protection. Broderick Jones was really the biggest concern and issue with the Steelers offensive line yesterday, and he was certainly the weakest link. And you're only as strong as your weakest link, by the way. But McCormick, I think, might have been Pittsburgh's best overall offensive lineman week one. I think that he has taken a really big step forward. Aaron Rodgers has been super complimentary of him all training camp long. And I love McCormick's skill set coming out of South Dakota State. I had a third-round grade on him. And to see his development from year one to year two so far has been awesome to see. I'm really hoping that he can keep it up because he certainly looks like a full-time starter here in Pittsburgh. So coming up next here on Steelers Talk, we're going to talk about Jabril Peppers and some other free agent options for the Pittsburgh Steelers if they want to add somebody here before their week two matchup with the Seattle Seahawks at home. But before we get into the rest of today's show, make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you are enjoying our in-depth content here. We provide you guys in-depth videos on the Steelers like this every single day. We usually put out 2 videos a day, one in the morning, one during the evening. And if you guys want daily Steelers videos for free, weekly live shows, we go live twice a week as well as go live for every single Steelers game on our live watch parties. And, of course, every time Omar Khan makes a big move, we go live with our breaking news coverage. So make sure you guys join the over 92,000 subscribers after we added about 2,000 subscribers on our watch party here over the weekend. So we're getting closer, guys, to 100,000 subscribers. We're well on our way to hitting that mark during this season. Help us get there right now by clicking that subscribe button. So Jabril Peppers earlier today tweeted this out saying, "Crazy how life work," with the little praying hands there. A lot of people are taking this to mean that he's going on a visit somewhere or he's going somewhere to sign a contract. And there's a lot of people in the comment section there with Jabril saying, are you going to the Steelers? All this different stuff, of course, because Deshaun Elliott, the starting strong safety for the Steelers, got injured yesterday versus the New York Jets. And we still honestly don't know what his status is at this point. I'm sure we'll get an update from Mike Tomlin tomorrow during his weekly press conference. So Jabril Peppers would be an awesome addition. I talked about it on yesterday's show, so I won't go too in-depth on Jabril, but he can certainly bring a lot to this defense as a strong safety, bigger type of guy. Great run defender, great tackler, fits the identity of this Steelers defense like a glove. So if this Deshaun Elliott injury is a serious one, I would be on the phone with Jabril Peppers getting him in here as soon as possible. But some other free agent safeties to consider. There's still some decent options that with a lot of starting experience. Justin Simmons is still out there, even though he's more of a true free safety. Marcus Williams had a really bad season last year, and the Steelers brought in Chuck Clark over him during the training camp, but the Steelers have shown some interest in Marcus already this year. And then Jordan Whitehead, Jordan Poyer, who, by the way, is ayahuasca buddies with Aaron Rodgers. They've gone on ayahuasca trips together, so keep your eye on Poyer if they're looking to add a safety. And then Marcus May, another former starter, to keep your eye on as well. But some other positions that the Steelers could, in theory, target if they want to. Offensive tackle, if they find someone that they like. Wide receiver, of course. So we talked quite a bit about wide receiver leading up to the season. On the nose tackle, if they really do move Keanu Benton away from the nose tackle and say they put Y.A. Black there as the starting nose, then you need a backup nose in that case. You could technically put Daniel Ekuale there, but you could also go out and get some other nose tackle help if you want. So let's just go over these positions one at a time here. I would say the top free agent offensive tackles, there's not many out there, guys. Isaiah Wynn has got a lot of starting experience. He's not very good. And then David Bakhtiari has been trying to get back in the National Football League for multiple seasons now. No team has bitten, but if there's any team that might bite, it might be Aaron Rodgers' team, all right, because he was his left tackle for many seasons. They're good friends, all that different stuff. So never say never is what I'll say to that. But then you get to the wide receivers, the top receivers for the Steelers to consider if they want to add somebody to this group. Seems like they're okay with the formation and kind of the lineup that they've got. Seems like they like DK. They certainly like Calvin. They like Jonnu as kind of that in-between piece, so to speak, that big slot kind of guy. But then, if you want to go out and get Odell Beckham Jr., who's friends with Aaron Rodgers, you could do that. DJ Chark could be a backup to DK Metcalf as a decent backup X receiver. Same thing with Nelson Aguilar, who's who's been a rotational piece with Baltimore for many seasons, and then Tyler Boyd, a Pittsburgh native, another guy that you can consider as well. But none of those guys are going to be needle movers. And then you get to the nose tackle position. Montravius Adams was let go by the Bengals this year, so he's available if you want to bring him back. I like the way Montravius plays the game. He's not the best player in the world, but he certainly gives high effort. Raekwon Davis, big boy, 325 pounds. You could potentially go get him. And then Linval Joseph, definitely up there in age, but he's been a starting nose tackle in this league for a long time. So if he wants to come play backup nose tackle for the Steelers, I certainly wouldn't say no to that on a veteran minimum contract. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. Which free agent or free agents do you want Pittsburgh to target after week 1 heading into week 2? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. If I'm picking one guy, it's pretty easy, guys. I'm going and getting Jabril Peppers, especially if that Deshaun Elliott injury is serious. But let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. Now, before I go here, I do want to recap what happened in week one around the AFC North. Of course, the Steelers ended up beating the New York Jets, so the Steelers are 1-0. But then you have the Bengals playing the Browns, and once again, Joe Burrow, Zach Taylor, and that Bengals team looked bad against the Cleveland Browns of all teams. Now, they were on the road, all this different stuff, week 1 game, but the Bengals played a lot of their starters in the preseason to try and mitigate kind of the early season struggles. Doesn't seem like it worked, man, because they went right down to the wire, and the Browns had a missed kick late. If they make that, Joe Burrow and the Bengals probably lose week 1 yet again. So the Browns are the Browns. They suck. But the fact that the Bengals only won by 1 point there certainly indicates that the Bengals might not be very good this season either. But then really the game of the week, I mean, if you would have asked me if there was any game this week that would have been better than the 34-32 shootout that the Steelers and Jets had, I would say no way. But then, of course, the two leading MVP candidates last year, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, duel it out. The Bills with an incredible comeback in the final 4 minutes of the game, which is obviously good news if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, because that means the Ravens gave away a win, which, of course, increases the chances the Steelers could potentially upset the Ravens and be crowned AFC North champions here in 2025. All right, that'll be it for today's show, guys. Thank you so much for stopping by here today. We're going to have more Steelers talk coverage for you guys tomorrow, so make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Until next time, here we go, Steelers. All right, Ponzi, first segment in the books. And now we prepare to talk about some college quarterbacks here. I think through 2 weeks, there's 4 quarterbacks that I would say look like first-round QBs to me, for sure. And then there's some guys that I'm keeping my eye on, I have an open mind to, and then there's some guys that don't look good. They're highly touted, they're very highly hyped, and they just haven't been living up to the hype for the first 2 weeks. So we're going to talk about which quarterbacks the Steelers could realistically take next year because, in my opinion, Ponzi, first round is where it's at for the Steelers. The Steelers will be taking their quarterback in round 1. So really the only guys that we should be talking about are the guys that can realistically be drafted in round 1 because that's where the Steelers are probably going to be drafting their quarterback. So this is a pretty important video that I want to get out to you guys here this week. But who's been a college quarterback that has impressed you the most here so far, Ponzi?
I mean, it's got to be Garrett Nussmeier. I think, that week 1 against Clemson was really good. He showed great presence in the pocket. Admittedly, I do just, I loved Nuss coming out of college last year. I loved his tape, but I think he's gotten even better. I really think that he's my early Heisman candidate. But, I mean, I got to be surprised with Carson Beck. He had a really bad year last year. Or not really a bad, but a down year for sure.
It was a bad year.
But, yeah.
It was a bad year.
But, I mean, he's looked really in control at Miami. I think that was a really great fit for him. And, I mean, are we talking about Miami being an NFL quarterback pipeline now?
Yeah, I mean, if Beck goes in the first round next year, we're talking about back-to-back years Cam Ward and Carson Beck being transfers to Miami,
exactly,
going to the NFL the following year and being first-round picks if he ends up being a first-rounder. Now, it's 2 weeks. He's going to have to continue to show us because we saw a lot of bad film from him last year. So he has to really do a lot of good things this year to wipe that from our minds. But I think he looked really good against a good Notre Dame defense. He looked in control, and then he looked great last week again too. So we'll talk about Carson Beck a little bit on this next video here, guys. A little bit of a spoiler warning. He's not one of my top 4 quarterbacks, just so you guys know, but I do think he's one of the guys to watch that could get into the first-round conversation. if he continues to play well here as the college football season continues. Brandon Nicholson coming in with a 2. We appreciate you, Brandon. Says, is Coop gone for good? Coop's still here, man. He's just sitting out here right now. He's doing our Dolphins coverage this year. He's going to be doing some guest appearances probably during the season. But Ponzi is our full-time producer here on Steelers Talk. He's doing a great job, man. And we're really excited about this season. And, I mean, I guess Ponzi's just used to – he's probably expecting every watch party to be coming down to the wire like it was yesterday.
Yeah, that was a crazy game yesterday. It's just I was not expecting that much offense.
Yeah, it was a lot of offense for sure, man. All right, we are currently sitting at what are we sitting at? We are sitting at $80 right now in donation, so we're a $20 donation away from giving away a Steelers Talk hat today. $5 gets you a raffle ticket, $10 gets you 3 raffle tickets, $20 gets you 10 tickets plus your name on the Steelers Talk Gong. $50 you get to just buy a hat straight up. You don't have to deal with the raffle. And then $250 total. You guys, we will hit the gong here on the show. So if you guys want to send in your super chats, if you guys want to send in Venmo or PayPal, you can find me here at Jack-Sperry on Venmo or at Captain Jackrabbit on PayPal. Really do appreciate your guys' support. We are $15 away now because my man Dark City coming in with a $5 super chat. We'll get you up on screen here momentarily. Dark City, he says, we can all agree the Steelers were right about letting Russ go. He is washed. Yes. I think in the right situation, Russ can still be a pretty good quarterback. We kind of saw that last year before George got injured and before TJ got injured. That he was pretty functional in this kind of system. All right, that let him throw deep balls and let him go one read the check down and all this different stuff. But Russell Wilson definitely has his limitations. Okay, and the fact that Aaron Rodgers, who comes in here and in week 1 you're scoring 34 points with largely the same group. There's some differences there. Jaylen Warren, new number 1 running back, DK Metcalf. You swap them out for George Pickens, but they're both ex-receivers. A lot of the pieces are the same. Jonnu Smith is kind of the one, honestly, huge change to this offense this year because Calvin was here last year. You take out some of the bad pieces like Van Jefferson and stuff like that, but it's not that different of an offense this year in terms of the overall talent. And you put up 34 points against what many people consider to be a good defense heading into this year. And then Russell Wilson goes up against a team that many people consider to have kind of a mid-level defense in the Washington Commanders. And he looked terrible. He couldn't complete a pass. I think he was 17 of 37. And, of course, this is what I love about Russell Wilson, Ponzi. It's actually what I hate about him. When things don't go right, he is still Mr. Positive. He is not capable of having a negative thought or saying something negative or saying we need to get this shit right or anything like that or holding people accountable. When things aren't going right, and Russell Wilson's like, we're good, guys. We're good. We're great. We're going to win the Super Bowl. And it's like, man, we've lost 4 games in a row. What are you fucking talking about? We got to fix some of this stuff. And, if you've ever been on a sports team with somebody like that is just always positive no matter how bad things are going, it just infuriates you if you're I used to play baseball, right? If we were down 12 runs and there was somebody that was like, yeah, let's go, guys. We're doing great. We can still come back. It's like, dude, just shut up. All right? Things are not going right. We need to have a little bit of accountability here. With Russell Wilson, that's not there. When you're winning, Russ's positivity is great. When you're not doing things the right way, Russ's positivity is infuriating, which is one of the big reasons why I'm a big fan of Aaron Rodgers' style of leadership, because if shit hits the fan, he's going to let people know, hey, we need to do shit right around here, all right? Things are not all sunshine and rainbows and unicorns like Russell Wilson told you guys last year, all right? We got to do things the right way. We got to have attention to detail. We got to win, all right? So I like that Aaron Rodgers brings that element to his leadership style. Alex W. coming in with a $10 super chat says, can I get a shout out for my nephew's GoFundMe? He was recently diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and they are going to try and get a diabetic alert dog. It's called Pause with Purpose for Miles. Go Steelers. All right, so a little bit of a shout out there. Thank you for the $10 super chat there, Alex W. That's Pause with Purpose for Miles. If you guys want to help out their GoFundMe.
And that does put us with the hat raffle.
And that puts us over the top for the hat raffle. So thank you, Alex W. I think I saw one from Justin come in. Is that right, or was that just the software there?
I think that was just the software there.
Okay. Unless we have another notification here, I don't think we do. Let's get into our next segment here, guys. We're going to talk some college quarterbacks here. We're going to talk about the 4 QBs that I think look like round 1 quarterbacks to me, at least at this point in the college football season. Talk about some guys maybe on the periphery that could enter that conversation, and we'll talk about the guys that were supposed to be in that conversation that have definitely not lived up to expectations to start the 2025 college football season. Make sure you guys stick around, too, because after this segment, we got the big one here, Week 2 preview versus the Seattle Seahawks. So make sure you guys stick around here. Get those super chats in, all that great stuff. Get your raffle tickets for the Steelers Talk hat raffle. I see Alex L. put in another $10 super chat. We appreciate you, Alex. We'll get to your super chat after this next segment. So without further ado, let's talk some college QBs. Next spring, the Pittsburgh Steelers will almost certainly draft a quarterback in round 1 of the 2026 NFL Draft, which is ironically being held in Pittsburgh. So that's going to be a hell of a moment for this fan base to see their new franchise quarterback be drafted in their city. I think the Steelers know that, and with a really QB-rich draft heading into next spring, I do think that the Steelers' plan is to go out and get a quarterback. Whether Aaron Rodgers comes back for another season or not, that sounds like it is a possibility at this point in time. I still think they want to get somebody in their building to start grooming that player for the future. And I do think that one way or another, we're looking at Pittsburgh most likely drafting a quarterback in round 1. And through 2 weeks, I think that there's 4 quarterbacks that for sure probably go in round 1 in the National Football League draft. One of the players on this graphic, by the way, I do not think will get drafted in round 1 this year. So make sure you guys stick around to see which QB that is. But before we get into some college football QB discussion for your Pittsburgh Steelers today and which guys you should really be honing in on this college football season, let me know, which quarterback are you hoping that the Steelers draft next year? Are you a Drew Aller guy? Are you a Lenora Sellers guy? Are you somebody else? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. And with that, let's get into the first quarterback here that we're going to be talking about today that I think looks like a round 1 quarterback through the first 2 weeks of college ball. And that's Garrett Nussmeier, the quarterback for the LSU Tigers. Garrett is just really, really good at seeing defenses, all right, and anticipating open routes, knowing what's coming. He plays the game like an NFL starting quarterback. And a big reason why Nuss has been able to do these things is because LSU has invested in the Cognize VR headsets, all right, and it's the same company that Jaden Daniels and the Commanders partner with. And of course, Daniels used this technology at LSU to help propel him to a Heisman Trophy season, and it has helped Nussmeier become one of the most proficient college quarterbacks in the nation, all right? So if you get Nussmeier, you're getting a quarterback that can anticipate open windows, especially over the middle of the field. He's got a really good arm. He reminds me in terms of play style to Matthew Stafford, where he's not the most mobile quarterback in the world, but he's going to get the football where it needs to go. He's going to anticipate open receivers, and he's not going to be afraid to throw the ball in the tight windows, especially with the game on the line. He's an absolute warrior out there. You saw that in that close game against the Clemson Tigers in the season opener. And I just really like the way he plays the position. I think that he's probably going to be one of the more pro-ready quarterback prospects in the National Football League draft next year. So if the Steelers are looking for somebody to start right away and maybe bring in that Cognize VR technology with the quarterback, Nussmeier is certainly somebody that I would be looking at if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then another quarterback that I think is certainly putting himself in position to go round 1 this year is Drew Aller. The thing about Drew is that really impresses me is the continual improvement throughout his football journey. Even going back to high school, where he completely reinvented his throwing mechanics during COVID to become one of the more clean throwers of the football in college football once he entered the college football space to now really developing as a mental processor. Now, to be clear, Penn State hasn't played anybody. So this is kind of, obviously this list is going to ebb and flow as the season goes on. I'm sure we'll do a couple of updates on this list as the season goes on. But Penn State and Drew Aller have just looked absolutely fantastic through the first 2 weeks to my eye. Drew looks really in control out there. He's not throwing a lot of turnover-worthy plays like he did earlier on in his career. Last year, he really did a good job cutting those out on the way to the college football playoff. And this year, he just looks like the game has slowed down even more for him. Heading into what's probably his final season there at Penn State. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what he's going to be able to do against top-flight Big Ten competition because there's some legit defenses in this conference. He's got incredible arm talent that fits the AFC North, and he certainly has some superstar potential in him. And the fact that he keeps improving, I think, just lets you know that he can improve even further once he gets to the National Football League level. Then you get to Lenore Sellers, the quarterback for the Gamecocks there in South Carolina. And, Sellers is somebody where he's just so immensely physically talented, all right? And he's just got so many great traits about him. A rocket arm, quick release. He's got great pocket presence. He's got really great flashes of elite pocket movement, followed by really tough throws in a phone booth. And then, of course, he packages all that in a super strong frame and a fantastic rushing ability. He is a dynamic rusher of the football, and you just don't see that collection of traits in one person all that often. Now, for every, Josh Allen that comes into the league, you get an Anthony Richardson, right? So you're going to be playing a little bit with fire with a guy like Sellers unless he really makes a step forward in his mental processing, all that different stuff. But if that's the case, the Steelers likely won't have a chance to get him because he's going to be going probably number 1 overall or close to it. But the good news, if you're a Steelers fan and you want to get a guy like Lenore Sellers, is that I think through 2 weeks, he still looks a little bit raw in terms of his ability to read defenses, in terms of his ability to get through his progressions, not be too dependent on playmaking with his legs, all those different things. Those tendencies in his game that showed up last year are still showing up in the first 2 weeks of this season. So if you're hoping that the Steelers get Lenore Sellers, you're hoping that he doesn't have the best season this year because that means he's going to have to be somebody that's a little bit more of a developmental prospect that the Steelers bring in. And if Sellers doesn't explode and have like a Heisman caliber season this year, the Pittsburgh Steelers could realistically trade up and get him in the NFL draft next year. And honestly, like you think about Mike Tomlin quarterbacks and what he likes, like it's very similar to Justin Fields, right? Big body, great rusher of the football, cannon for an arm, all the physical potential in the world. And if you can give him a year sitting behind like maybe Aaron Rodgers, like Rodgers has certainly left the door open to returning for another season if this year goes well with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And depending on how his body is feeling and all that stuff, he's certainly left the door open to returning for 2026. And if you can have Aaron Rodgers come back for another year and you have Lenore Sellers, somebody that could be your future at the position, learning from him for a year, like that might be the ideal setup for the Pittsburgh Steelers at quarterback in 2026. Another guy that I think you could probably bring in, and I for the record, I think Drew Aller fits into this category as well as sit behind Rodgers and develop for a year. John Mateer from the OU Sooners, man, he really impressed me a lot with some of his throws against Michigan. Now Mateer is a little bit of a wild stallion. He is a Mustang. He is somebody that has bad overthrows. He's got a little bit of a funky like sidearm throwing motion. It's a clean throwing motion, but it's pretty funky compared to some of the other college quarterbacks out there. Very modern throwing motion, that's for sure. He reminds me a lot of Justin Herbert in that way, kind of that sidearm release. But he's a huge talent because not only does he have that arm strength, not only does he have that touch over the middle of the field, he rips those in-breakers like they're nothing. He's got some nice pocket presence. He can throw with anticipation. Sometimes it's just a matter of some overthrows, some accuracy inconsistencies, but he's also a really good rusher of the football, man. He's really strong. He's fast. He's definitely a threat with his legs as well. So I think that physical potential mixed with a good season, which he's already started on with the Oklahoma Sooners this year, is going to combine for potentially a Heisman-level campaign there in Norman for him, and then culminating in a round 1 selection next year's NFL draft. Would certainly love for the Steelers to land a kid as talented as this. So still to come here on Steelers Talk, other potential round one quarterbacks to watch, some guys on the periphery that maybe haven't fully gotten in my good graces yet, but certainly could by the end of the season, and then some hyped up quarterbacks that need to play better down the stretch here for their respective college football programs. But before we get into the rest of today's show, guys, make sure you check out our friends at Prize Picks. And you and I, we both make decisions every single day, but on Prize Picks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Football season is finally here, folks, and you better believe that I'm going to be getting my Prize Picks lineups in all season long. Prize Picks is simple to play. Just pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. Prize Picks also puts their users first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Prize Picks also offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. And a new feature from Prize Picks this year that I absolutely love is injury reboots. If one of your players leaves the game in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks won't count it as a loss. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup on the Prize Picks app today. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup on the Prize Picks app today. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. So I got 4 quarterbacks for you guys to keep your eye on here over the next few weeks here. Might be the last college QB video we do for a little while here, but Jalen Daniels from Kansas has been really impressive through the first 3 weeks. Now, I know the Jayhawks lost to Missouri last week, and the 2 wins that Kansas has so far are against nobodies, but Jalen Daniels has been super impressive to me, all right? And I think he's got a very interesting profile. Here's my scouting report on Daniels. A very dynamic rushing threat at 220 pounds as well. He's not the tallest guy in the world. He's just 6 foot. He's 220 pounds, so he brings some good size to the table. The arm talent is certainly there, can throw from a bunch of different angles, has a really quick release. The mental processing for a really dynamic athlete, though, is really nice. He can get through a full field progression read. He had a couple examples of that against the Missouri Tigers last weekend. He protects the football, doesn't throw a lot of interceptions, doesn't put the ball on the ground too much. And then the playmaking instincts outside of structure are really special, too. He pairs that arm talent and that rushing ability to be one of the better playmakers out of structure in college football. Now, the cons, he has a pretty extensive injury history, so there's an injury risk there. He's got not the strongest arm in the world. I call it lackluster arm strength. It's strong enough to play in the league, but it's certainly something where it's not a cannon like a Josh Allen or a Patrick Mahomes or a Justin Herbert. The deep ball accuracy as a result, because he doesn't have the greatest arm strength, the deep ball accuracy can fluctuate with him, which might not be the best fit with the Steelers, who like a guy that can throw those deep passes to Calvin and to DK and those guys. And then the pocket presence. He's somebody that likes to drift in the pocket. He relies a lot on his playmaking instincts because he can get away with it at the college level. But he doesn't really step up into pockets all too frequently. If you're looking for a pure pocket passer and a distributor, Jalen Daniels is probably not your guy. But he's got a very interesting profile here where if he can continue to play well during this college football season, he may sneak in, maybe, into some round one conversations. And Carson Beck is certainly somebody to keep your eye on here from the Miami Hurricanes. He was a big-time round one discussion piece last year with the Georgia Bulldogs, but he just didn't have a good season with them. He ends up transferring to Miami, and in the first 2 weeks, man, he looks damn good, all right? He's looking like, very similar to what we talked about with Garrett Nussmeier, somebody that can really pick apart defenses, really beat teams with his mind. He's looking accurate. He looks in complete control of that Miami Hurricanes offense. And, if Carson Beck ends up having a really good season this year and ends up going in round one, I think we're talking about the Miami Hurricanes as a potential quarterback pipeline here with Cam Ward and Carson Beck, 2 transfers coming in, and in 1 year becoming first-round caliber quarterbacks going into the NFL draft. So definitely keep your eye on Beck. He's looked good so far, but I need to see a complete season from him to feel anywhere near comfortable taking him in the round one. And then we get to a couple of quarterbacks here that don't have the best physical traits in the world, but they just have a great feel for the game, in my opinion. And that's Iowa State's Rocco Becht. He just won the Cy-Hawk game for the second year in a row there for the Cyclones over the Iowa Hawkeyes. Another close game. And then Josh Hoover from TCU. Josh Hoover just continues to get better with his mental processing every single year. He reminds me a little bit of Brock Purdy. He can throw those intermediate balls over the middle of the field. Doesn't have the strongest arm in the world, but he's a little bit of a playmaker as well. Rocco Becht is another guy that reminds me a little bit of Purdy. Of course, he's playing at Iowa State, so of course you're going to say that, but the anticipation from these guys is really good. The mental processing is really good from these guys. I would trust these guys to play in the NFL over some of these other more physically talented but more raw prospects that we've talked about on today's show. But certainly the upside might be a little bit limited for these guys. So they're going to have truly stellar seasons if they want to get themselves in the round one conversation. So predict it for me down there in the comment section. Who will be the surprise quarterback that nobody's talking about right now that's going to go in round one? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Who's the guy nobody's talking about right now that's going to get in that round one conversation? Now, to finish up today's show, I do want to talk about some highly touted quarterback prospects here that just have not been up to snuff to start the season, at least not in my opinion. Arch Manning from Texas. Of course, I think he's only going to be coming out if he's like the number 1 or number 2 pick, and he guarantees himself to go to either Cleveland or New Orleans. His family's very close to both of those organizations, so unless he is guaranteed to do that, I don't think he's even going to be coming out. So very low chance the Steelers have the opportunity to draft Arch Manning next year, even if he comes out. But, with the early start, it hasn't looked great. It looks like his shoulder might be dealing with a little bit of a minor injury right now. Just a very tumultuous start for the Longhorn QB. And Cade Klubnik from Clemson, physically talented guy, 5-star guy, played a lot better last year for Clemson, and now it seems like he's reverted back to 2 years ago when he wasn't a good college quarterback. Almost got upset this weekend against a far inferior opponent. It just has not been good through the first 2 games for Cade Klubnik, but he certainly has the physical talent to turn it around. And then Sam Levitt, another guy with some nice arm talent, but man, bad decision maker. They lost to Mississippi State last weekend. Not a good loss whatsoever. That's the kind of game that you expect Sam Levitt to carry you to if he's going to be a round 1 quarterback. So all 3 of these guys still have really great physical potential, round 1 potential even, but they got to turn it around if they're going to really reach that potential before we get to next year in Pittsburgh. So type those real ones down there in the comment section if you made it to the end of today's show. Make sure you like today's show if you want to see more quarterback content this year for the Pittsburgh Steelers in terms of college QBs that this team could draft next year. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already, because it's definitely not college quarterback talk every single day here on Steelers Talk. We talk about the Steelers every single day here on this channel, so make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Until next time, guys, here we go, Steelers. Second segment in the books, Mr. Ponzi. And then the next one here, the big enchilada. It's our biggest video of the week, at least graphically speaking, our Week 2 preview versus the Seattle Seahawks. It's my favorite video to do during the week because it's the most in-depth. We go full bore, and we go way in-depth on the Seattle Seahawks, what they like to run, who their personnel is, how the Steelers are going to be able to beat these guys, if they're going to beat them. I love doing these preview videos with you guys, so I can't wait to dive in. But first, let's catch up on some Super Chats. Alex L. sent in a 10 right before we went to our last segment. Big shout-out to Alex Lanier, one of the real ones here on Steelers Talk. Okay. And then we've got $5 here from, I hope I'm saying this right, Giu Wavy. Oh, my goodness. I think I completely butchered that, Ponzi. He says, offense did really well. But it is worth noting, we beat the same Jets team last year, but this year we gave up way more points. Fields played great. Fields did play great, and good for Fields, man. I'm so happy for Justin. He's a good kid, good guy, good, and now hopefully good player. And I think that he's a better fit for their situation than he would have been for our situation here in Pittsburgh. Steelers are trying to win now, all right? If they wanted to rebuild, they would have fired Mike Tomlin. They would have traded T.J. Watt instead of giving him $41 million per season. They would have traded Cam Hayward. They would have traded all these guys, all right? And they didn't do that. Now, they did trade George and Minka, but they brought in DK and they brought in Jalen Ramsey, right? So there's kind of trade-offs in sort of ways there. But Fields going into a situation there in New York where there's no championship expectations. They're rebuilding with a new head coach. It's a new situation there. That fits him better, in my opinion, because if you would have retained Fields, you would have been really banking on him taking a huge step forward from where he was last year in order to put this team in contention. And I wasn't willing to take that risk. And even if he did get you to the playoffs, first-time playoff quarterbacks are terrible in the playoffs. So if you're hoping to get a playoff win here in Pittsburgh, Fields probably wasn't going to be the guy to get you there, even if he had a good season here in Pittsburgh. So I think Aaron Rodgers gives this team a much better chance to have success come January. And then next year in the draft, you can get your long-term answer at the quarterback position. But I'm happy that Fields can go into a situation there, make it his own. He's got an awesome play caller there in Tanner Engstrand. He's got a good young offensive line. I'm hoping that he can solidify himself as their franchise quarterback this year. He's a good guy, good teammate, good person, works hard, and he's very talented. So a guy with that kind of talent level playing well at the NFL level, I mean, it's good for football fans in general. So very happy for Fields. In terms of the defense, man, I think 7-8 weeks from now, when we see the Jets sitting at an above 500 record, and I think that's where they might be, I think their offense is a lot better than people give it credit for. People are like, oh, you gave up 32 points to the Jets. Well, if you watch the film, man, there was a lot of right and good on that Jets film. It wasn't like the Jets were playing bad and the Steelers were just playing worse. Like, that's not what was going on. That's what people kind of seem to think was going on, that the Jets suck and the Steelers just sucked more. No, it was the Jets played really well and the Steelers, especially early on, just couldn't match that. I think they kind of expected to kind of roll them over a little bit on the defensive side of the ball, and they didn't come fully ready to play, which is a little bit on Mike Tomlin, and a lot on Mike Tomlin, I would say. A little bit on the leadership there and Cam Hayward and TJ Watt. But then in the second half, I thought they had more energy. They got those final 2 stops to end the game. By the end of the game, they made the stops they needed to make to win the football game. So I think 7-8 weeks from now, this kind of score in this game is going to make a lot more sense to us than it does right now, because nobody expected the Jets to be good. But I think that they're a lot better than people give them credit for. $5 from Shaker Hand. $5. Thank you so much. Get you into the raffle. Says, common refrain after Jets game, defense was bad because Fields knew the scheme from last season. Your thoughts? No. That goes both ways, right? The Steelers know what Justin Fields does well, what he doesn't do well, and I'm sure he knows some ins and outs of the Steelers scheme and how to attack it, but like the Steelers, I think, probably switched some things up on him compared to what he was maybe expecting a little bit. I just think, just to say, just to kind of use the cop-out of Fields knows the defense, therefore that's why he was good. I want to give Fields more credit than that. I really do. I think that Fields just played a good game, and I think that, he looked really comfortable. I think that offense fits his skill set like a glove. That offensive line was really, really good for them, especially their young offensive linemen that they got playing for them, especially on the tackle position. Those 2 tackles were awesome on film. So, I just think that that's a pretty good football team right there. I think that's a pretty good football team right there, and we'll see how they do this season. But I think when it's all said and done, this win is going to look a lot more impressive than it looks right now in a couple of weeks. Do we have any more here, or is that it? Oh, yeah, I did get a Venmo here. Okay. We'll get to this Venmo here, and then we'll get into our week 2 preview. What's up? What's up? Oh, you didn't say anything? Okay. I just sent in that Venmo, so we'll get to that here in just a second. But yesterday, if you guys didn't catch the result of the Seahawks game, they lost to the 49ers 17-13. And we're going to be talking about some of the things they did in this preview, but Jackson Smith and Jigba had over 50% of the targets, the receptions, and he had over 80% of the yards receiving yesterday. So if you're wondering which receiver the Steelers need to hone in on Sunday, that's the one, all right? If it means putting Jalen Ramsey on him, so be it. So be it. All right, $2 from Brian Ruiz. Appreciate you, Brian. Says, is Calvin Austin and Jonnu's production sustainable? Fire Pat Meyer. listen, man, I'm cool with firing Pat Meyer. They're not going to do it right now. We'll see at the end of the season. Maybe if they fire Tomlin, they'll end up firing Meyer. But I think it is. I think it is sustainable, Brian, and here's why. I think Aaron Rodgers, what he brings to this offense is he gives you multiple options, all right? What I mean by that is Russell Wilson and Justin Fields were so first read dependent. All right, they would have one thing that they're reading, and then they would immediately either look to run, that was Justin's case most of the time, or Russ would try to scramble, and a lot of times that would lead to sacks, all right? And he would miss secondary routes that were open, and it was really frustrating to watch on film. When you watched Aaron Rodgers on film yesterday, none of that was happening. There was no wide open receivers that he could have saw that he didn't. All these different things. Like, he got through his progression so well, and this is what happens when you sign one of the most intelligent quarterbacks in NFL history, somebody that has so much experience scanning defenses and mentally processing a defense, and somebody that processes so quickly. He can see everything out there. He's got a concept, and there's no necessarily like number one, number two. Like, there's some rules that he like kind of where he's putting his eyes first based on the coverage, but like he's deciphering what the defense is given to him, and then depending on what the defense gives him, that's where he's throwing the football. With Russell Wilson and Justin Fields last year, it was, okay, you look at this concept, and if there's nothing there, then either throw your check down or try to run. And, he didn't have that full field stretching ability where the defense had to cover every blade of grass. That's what the Jets had to do yesterday, and they paid for it, right? Because you had 7 different Steelers catch footballs yesterday, and I believe 4 different guys caught touchdowns. Yeah, 4 different guys. Jonnu, Jalen, Skoranek, and then Calvin. Those 4 guys caught touchdowns. So it was a great distribution, and the reason why it was distributed that way was because depending on the coverage the Jets were playing, different guys were open on different concepts. So it's so refreshing, Brian, to have a quarterback that can see all those different options and hit the guy that's open. Like last year, that just wasn't the case, and it just felt like so limiting for the Steelers offense, and it was so frustrating. Specifically, Ponzi, with a guy like Calvin Austin III, who's not the number one guy in the progression most of the time. Usually, last year it was George and Pat Freiermuth at times. And then this year it's going to be DK Metcalf most of the time. And it's going to be Pat Freiermuth at times as well. But, Calvin's the type of guy that gets open all the time as a secondary option. And Aaron Rodgers is the type of guy that can get to him in his progressions more consistently than Russ and Justin did. So I'm extremely excited to see what Calvin's going to be able to do with a guy like Aaron Rodgers that can mentally process defenses the way he can. And I think that this weapons group, Ponzi, is going to be a great distribution. It's not going to be heavily featured one guy or another. It's going to be, whoever's open on this concept's getting the football. And I think that that's going to make the Steelers' passing attack that much more difficult to cover. And I think it makes this offense that much more dangerous. All right, we got one more segment to get into here, guys. And it's the big one. Our Week 2 preview versus the Seattle Seahawks. Sam Darnold and crew are going to be coming into Acrisure Stadium for Aaron Rodgers' Acrisure Stadium debut as a Pittsburgh Steeler, and DK Metcalf will be trying to get his revenge versus the team that instead of paying him this offseason decided to trade him away. So definitely a lot of emotions for this football game. It's going to be another great one here on Steelers Talk. So without further ado here, guys, let's get into this week's preview. It's Week 2 in the National Football League, and the Seattle Seahawks will travel to Acrisure Stadium in Pittsburgh, PA, to take on the Pittsburgh Steelers in the Black and Gold's home opener and Aaron Rodgers' Acrisure Stadium debut as a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Our watch party for Sunday, guys, is going to be starting same time as it did last week for the Jets game, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time, an hour and a half of pregame coverage, followed by live play-by-play and extensive post-game coverage as well. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. For all of our weekly previews, we put out a preview for every single Steelers game. We also go live with watch parties for every single Steelers game this year, and then post-game reactions for the Steelers games this year, guys. So if you want that extensive game day experience and game week experience as a Steelers fan, this is the place where you get that for free. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button to join. Over the 92,000 that have already clicked that subscribe button here on Steelers Talk. All right, so now the 0-1 Seattle Seahawks will travel to Acrisure Stadium here on Sunday for the Steelers home opener. Of course, Steelers trying to improve to 2-0 on the season and, try and get another bit of revenge here for new Steelers wide receiver one, DK Metcalf, who, of course, played with Seattle for the last several years there in Seattle. And last week, Aaron Rodgers got his revenge versus the Jets, and this team really rallied around each other to get a very gutsy win versus, I think, a better Jets team than people kind of think that they are right now. But this week, it's time to get DK his revenge, all right? Like, that was a Seattle Seahawks team that could have kept him, could have paid him to keep him there long term, and instead decided to trade him away for a second-round pick. So you better believe DK Metcalf has something to prove heading into this game. You better believe Aaron Rodgers is going to want to help him make that message clear. So some injuries to watch here. Now, I'm recording this still early in the week, so we don't have a lot of firm answers on the injury front, but Derek Harmon and Nick Herbig for the Steelers on the defensive line missed last week with knee and hamstring injuries, respectively. Deshaun Elliott, at the time of me recording this video, still unknown what the extent of that knee injury is. And then Joey Porter Jr. left the Jets game early with a hamstring issue. We'll see if he gets to play. And then Nick Emenwari, the rookie safety out of South Carolina for Mike McDonald's group there in Seattle, left with an ankle injury versus the Niners in Week 1. And then Uchenna Nwosu, their starting Sam linebacker, edge rusher, is out with a knee last week. We'll see if he can get back on the field here in Week 2. But we can take a look here at the Seattle Seahawks coaching situation here in their scheme breakdown. Mike McDonald, second-year head coach. He's 10-8 in his career as the Seattle Seahawks head coach. So a winning record there, but obviously pretty small sample size. The offensive scheme that they run is a new school Shanahan system led by Clint Kubiak, who worked underneath Kyle Shanahan there in San Francisco for multiple seasons. He spent a one-year stint in New Orleans last year with Derek Carr in that group that started hot and then got a bunch of injuries and finished really, really cold. Now he's with Sam Darnold here in Seattle. Then on defense, of course, the McDonald 4-3 under is one of the big-time new regime type of defenses in the NFL. And, of course, you got the guy that kind of brought that to the forefront, first at Michigan, then in Baltimore, and now in Seattle. Mike McDonald himself calls the defensive plays here in Seattle, and that is a pretty ravenous group. But last week, Seattle only scored 13 points versus the 49ers. Sam Darnold was 16 of 23 for 150, no tuds, no picks. Brock Purdy had 2 interceptions against this defense. That's something to keep in mind there. And the leading rusher for Seattle only had 47 yards, and Zach Charbonnet on 12 carries, but he did get a touchdown. But JSN, we're going to talk about him here in a little bit, absolutely dominated that football game with 124 yards receiving. But you guys can take a look at Seattle's 2025 offense here. Sam Darnold, their new quarterback, leads this group, and then Charles Cross, Gray Zabel, really solid left side of their offensive line this year. That's been an issue in years past. But then they got Oluwatimi as their center. They've got Christian Haynes, who's a really good fit for this wide zone run scheme, in my opinion, at right guard. And then Abraham Lucas just got a big-time deal right before the season, big-time extension there. And then their skill position players, their top 2 guys at receiver are Jackson Smith and Jigba out of Ohio State. Cooper Kupp is their new addition to the wide receiver room this year. They also have guys like Torrey Horton in reserve there as kind of the number 3 receiver option. Some other guys that they've got on that roster. Then Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet are their 2 running backs. They're going to use both of them in this football game. And then they've got Elijah Arroyo as their rookie tight end here. Then you get to the defensive line, you get to the defensive side of the ball. This is their listed starting defensive line. DeMarcus Lawrence getting a bit older, but he's their starting Leo, which in a 4-3 under front is pretty much just a true defensive end. Kind of a bigger body that's asked to set the edge, that sort of stuff. Perfect fit. He played in this type of 4-3 under scheme under Dan Quinn in Dallas for many years. So he's very accustomed to this role in this style of defense. Then Jaron Reed is their 3 technique. Byron Murphy, former first-round pick out of Texas, is their nose tackle. Had a good week last week. Speaking of good performances versus San Fran, last week Leonard Williams was very impactful at the 5 technique spot. That's the other defensive end spot for them. And then they got Uchenna Nwosu as their starting Sam, but he did not play last week. So if he can't go again here for week 2, Boye Mafe is going to be their starting Sam linebacker and their other kind of edge rusher in this 4-3 under scheme. So still to come here on, oh, never mind, not that, Ponzi. Come on now, producer Ponzi. We got the off-ball linebackers here. Where we got Ernest Jones, who is actually a pretty darn good player. I think Ernest Jones is maybe one of the more underrated off-ball linebackers in the National Football League. He's very well-rounded. Then you got Tyrese Knight, who's very physically gifted and is certainly on the up and up, but he's got a lot to prove heading into this year. Then you get into the secondary, and Devon Witherspoon is their number 1 corner. Now, in terms of matchup, maybe DK Metcalf's not the best for him, but he is their number 1 corner, and he plays in the slot for them a lot. And then you got Reek Woolen, who's kind of their number 1 true outside type guy, long arms, big body. And then you got Julian Love and Kobe Bryant as the 2 kind of split safeties in this McDonald kind of 2 high safety type of system. And then you got Josh Jobe as the 3rd cornerback that comes in that plays on the outside in their nickel formations. But if Imanwari can play in this game, guys, he will be playing as their bandit safety. And, if you guys aren't familiar with the bandit safety role, especially in these 4-3 under type of defenses, lots of these types of defenses love to use a 3rd safety, and Imanwari is kind of like that hybrid linebacker / safety guy. Think of like Josh Metellus for the Vikings. Think of Jaron Kearse a couple years ago for the Cowboys. Think like Jeremy Chin for the Commanders last year. Kind of these bigger type of athletic linebacker types that can also play safety. Kind of these hybrid type players. So if he can't go, that's going to be a big piece to their defense that will be missing for this ball game. But still to come. Here we go, Ponzi. We got the still to come graphic here. Keys to victory versus the Seattle Seahawks. I've got 8 keys to victory again this week for you guys. Then we got Sam Darnold's scouting report as well. Pros, cons, how the Steelers should attack him this weekend. And then my week 2 score prediction for Steelers versus Seahawks. It's all coming up here in just a second. But first, let's have a word from our sponsor today at Ethos. And guys, the summer before I started here at Chat Sports, my family lost my late grandfather. And as you tend to do when you lose a loved one, you begin to think about your own mortality and what would happen to the people dependent on you if something were to happen. With today's sponsor, Ethos, your family is protected. Cassie and I are getting married soon, and shortly after that, I imagine we'll buy a house and start having some kids. If something were to happen to me, I want the last thing the people I love to worry about is being able to pay the bills, so I trust Ethos to keep them protected. Ethos is an online platform that makes getting life insurance fast and easy to protect your family's future in minutes, not months. There's no complicated process, and it's 100% online. There's no medical exam required. You just answer just a few health questions to get a quote in as little as 10 minutes. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos today. Get your free quote at ethos.com/NFL Daily. That's ethos.com/NFL Daily to get your free quote today from our friends at Ethos. So my first key to victory here for the Pittsburgh Steelers here in week 2 is to get in their face. All right, we kind of saw this at the end of the game against the Jets where Jalen Ramsey was bringing the juice. Of course, he lays the boom on Garrett Wilson on that big 4th down to seal the game. But listen, man, I'm not afraid of the Seattle Seahawks vertical element to their passing game. All right, I don't have anybody on that team where I'm afraid of them beating you deep. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm getting in their face. I'm playing press coverage. I'm playing a lot of single high coverage. I am playing close to the line of scrimmage, and I am trying to really force them to do something other than the short and intermediate passing game that they want to have, all right, in the run game to set that up. So I want to force Seattle to beat this team deep. I don't really respect the long speed of Jackson Smith-Njigba or Cooper Kupp or Torrey Horton. Horton can make some 50-50 ball catches, but nobody's going to burn you deep for an 80-yard touchdown on this team, guys, in terms of the passing game. So I am playing very aggressively. I'm sending a lot of blitzes. I'm playing a lot of aggressive press man coverage against this Seattle offense. Then I think that what you have to do, and I think that Sam Darnold has showed this throughout his career, get after this guy, all right? And mix up some of your coverages. Have some inverted cover 2 looks. Have some inverted looks and some rotating coverages post-snap, all right? Because Sam Darnold is somebody that famously will see ghosts at times, and especially when he's pressured, he can absolutely crumble and make some big-time mistakes. Last week against San Francisco, it wasn't terrible, pretty efficient. 70% completion percentage, 150 yards, certainly not stellar, no touchdowns, no picks. And then he had a big fumble at the end of the game that wasn't really his fault. The ball got knocked out of his hand where he wasn't really looking. But you guys can take a look at my scouting report on Sam. He's a good starting quarterback. I would consider about maybe like 22 quarterbacks can be quote-unquote good, characterized as good. Sam had a really good season with Minnesota last year, but frankly, I think a lot of quarterbacks in that system could have had good seasons. He's got a really strong arm, really great arm talent, can throw the ball down the field really, really well. He's really proficient in the play-action passing game, which is exactly why Clint Kubiak brought him in here. That's going to be this offense's bread and butter. And then he can really throw the ball over the middle of the field. Not afraid to throw into that area, throw with anticipation. He's also come a pretty long way in mental processing as well since his early days in his career. But very inconsistent decision maker, especially when under pressure. Doesn't have good pocket presence. He holds the ball for a long time. He hunts the big play a lot. And that's something that he's working on. He checked the ball down a lot in that first game against the San Francisco 49ers. But right now I rank him as around the 20th best quarterback in the National Football League. So if you can get after him, you can really lead to some interceptions, and you can lead that to certainly a formula for victory for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think that the main cog in the pass rush this week needs to be T.J. Watt. He needs to eat. He had 0 sacks last week, got some pressure. I thought his explosiveness looked really good. That first step explosiveness looked really good at times versus Armin Membu and the Jets. Kudos to Armin Membu, by the way, man. He did a hell of a job on a guy as good as T.J. Watt to hold him to 0 sacks on the day. But Watt was a big-time impact in the run game, in my opinion. He was getting some pressures on there. He had some really close calls. This week against Abraham Lucas, that's going to be one of the key matchups to keep your eye on here this week. And I think Watt needs to take advantage of that mismatch. Okay, Lucas got absolutely dominated at the end of the game by Nick Bosa, the superstar edge rusher for San Francisco. I think T.J. Watt needs to have a similar impact in this game if the pass rush is going to get home, and the Steelers are going to make Sam Darnold uncomfortable. Then you get to Jackson Smith-Njigba, who is the offensive weapon that you don't want to let beat you. Last week it was Garrett Wilson. This week it's got to be JSN, because last week, man, he was their entire passing game. Okay, like they just didn't have anyone else getting open. Cooper Kupp looked slow. Torrey Horton didn't look great. There are other options, Elijah Arroyo, all those different guys. They just weren't getting it done. So Sam was looking in the direction of Jackson Smith-Njigba a lot, 50%. 56% of the catches, 59% of the targets, and 83% of the yardage went to Jackson Smith-Njigba in week 1. So I think, you definitely want to maybe consider double teaming him. It doesn't seem like Cooper Kupp has a lot of juice left in the tank here. You might want to make him beat a guy one-on-one. It certainly seems like that's an opportunity for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But also if you just want to put like Jalen Ramsey on Jackson Smith-Njigba, who's going to be spending a lot of time in the slot this year one-on-one, I think that is certainly something that could alleviate Jackson Smith-Njigba's impact on this football game. And then, kind of last week, where the Steelers went wrong is they couldn't hold up versus the run against Breece Hall and the New York Jets. And that's going to be something that the Steelers need to do this week, in my opinion, all right? Because I just don't really see how Sam Darnold in the passing game is going to be able to rip apart a Steelers defense here. But kind of like last week, if they can get the run game going, that's going to open up a lot of things for the Seattle Seahawks offensively. But I think if the Steelers can hold up versus the run, do all those different things here to be able to hold Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet down, I think that's going to be a good sign. And kind of a good sign here for the Pittsburgh Steelers, in my opinion, guys. Last week, and I think San Francisco's defensive tackle situation is putrid this year, and this offensive line and this rushing attack was only able to get 84 yards last week against San Francisco. They didn't have a great average at just 3.2 yards per carry. They did get a rushing touchdown, but not the most efficient day in the world. So the way that I would fix the Steelers' run game is I would play Y.A. Black at nose tackle over Keanu Benton, and if you're playing a 4-down front, On early downs, I would play Black more often. I think that he's somebody that's more suited to be a true run stuffer at the National Football League level than Keanu Benton is. I think Benton is more of a disruptor, a penetrator, and the Steelers kind of asked him to, and have been asking him over the last several seasons, to be somebody that takes on double teams and two gap and do all these things that, frankly, it's just not his skill set. But that is Y.A. Black's skill set. So I think if you just make that one change on this defensive line, this run defense can completely change because it's a big position to get right. Play Y.A. Black, guys, all right? Then you get to the offensive side of the ball, and my number one key to victory here is to feed DK Metcalf, okay? DK wants to get fed the ball against this football team. You better believe it, and I like his matchup versus Riq Woolen. Now, Woolen is big. He's athletic. He's got long arms. But he can certainly be a liability in coverage at times. He allowed the game-winning touchdown versus San Francisco late in the game, and then also he stopped running on a go route. I think that is something that Aaron Rodgers and DK Metcalf should try and take advantage of at some point in this game and try to get DK going on a go route and see if Woolen makes the same mistake. All right, I want to see DK Metcalf embarrass Mike Macdonald for disrespecting him, frankly, and trading him away. He is an awesome talent. They didn't want him there anymore. Just like Aaron Rodgers showed Aaron Glenn and the Jets that he can still play, I want DK Metcalf to get the football a lot in this football game, whether that's screens, slants, go balls, posts. Find ways to get DK Metcalf the football this week. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to make a big point of that. I think this is going to be a huge game for DK Metcalf. Then we get to Jaylen Warren, and I want to get him going more. And the Steelers kind of did this in the second half against the Jets. Warren had a super slow start to the game. In fact, they were playing Kenneth Gainwell more at running back, and were giving him more run at the beginning of the game. A lot of the things that I'm hearing from the social media and national media this week on the Steelers' run game is they, quote-unquote, can't run the football. All right, but something you need to know about Aaron Glenn and the Jets defense in particular is that they're very aggressive to stop the run. This has been Aaron Glenn's MO as a defensive play caller for a very long time. If you look back to his days with the Detroit Lions, they would consistently be one of the best run defense groups in terms of defense in the National Football League, but they would always be one of the worst pass defense groups in the National Football League, which is kind of why you saw that dynamic last week where the Steelers' pass game led the way while the run game wasn't as efficient. But I thought Jaylen Warren showed some good things in the second half last week against the Jets. He showed some good things as a pass catcher as well. Get him involved more early in the game because I think he can have a good game here against the Seattle Seahawks front. Another thing to keep in mind is McDonald bases his defense with two high safeties. All right, so you got two guys back there. You don't have that extra guy in the box, which should make it easier for the Steelers offense to get in their heavy formations, maybe get into a little bit more 13 personnel than you did last week against the Jets, and try to get McDonald to play personnel that he's not super comfortable playing. Put another person in the box, something that this defense is not very used to doing. And I think that the Steelers have the horses here to be able to make the Seattle Seahawks play a brand of defense that they don't want to play. And, of course, that's going to be just an inherent advantage for the Pittsburgh Steelers on this side of the football. Last week, Jaylen Warren, it's kind of going unnoticed, but he had 4.5 yards per touch last week against the New York Jets. Now, of course, that's including his 2 receptions as well. But I think Jaylen Warren was perfectly fine last week. He just didn't get the football enough. Kenneth Gainwell, frankly, ate into what his production should have been a little bit too much, in my opinion, especially in the first half. I want to see Arthur Smith make a point of getting Jaylen Warren the football a little bit earlier in this football game. Then the final key to victory here, guys, is to take care of the football. I do believe that the Steelers roster, just as a whole, they're a better team than the Seattle Seahawks, in my opinion. And I think, with Sam Darnold going up against this Steelers defense that's so good at taking the football away, I think that the Steelers are going to be able to get some interceptions here, maybe a forced fumble or two. If Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers offense can take care of the football, I think they're going to have a hell of a chance to win this game. And, Aaron Rodgers, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions last week against the Jets. He has the best interception ratio or interception percentage in the history of the league. He has the best touchdown to interception ratio in the history of the league as well. Now, if you get into 3rd and longs and you have to, and Seattle's doing their crazy stuff with the rotating coverages that McDonald loves to run, all that different stuff, maybe there's an interception that creeps in there, but hopefully the Steelers' run game, getting the ball to DK Metcalf, all that different stuff allows the Steelers to stay ahead of the sticks a little bit more than they did against the Jets and stay out of those interception-heavy situations against the Seahawks defense. So at the end of the day here, guys, I am going to pick the Pittsburgh Steelers to win this game, 27-20. I do think that there will be some bumps and bruises along the way, just like it was last week against the New York Jets. It's still early in the season. Seattle has a very good defense, but I think that Aaron Rodgers and this offense, frankly, are going to have another good week. I think that the Steelers' offense is kind of built to play a team that runs this kind of defense because they want to play kind of smaller. They want to play, with 2 high safeties, and the Steelers, they want to pound the football. They want to play big personnel. They want to run the football. I think we're going to see that run game really shine, hopefully, this week versus the Seattle Seahawks. I think that a couple interceptions here by Sam Darnold could be the difference, and I've got final score 27-20. DK Metcalf gets his revenge, and the Steelers improve to 2-0. That'll be it for this week's preview here on Steelers Talk, guys. We do an in-depth preview for the Steelers' opponent every single week, so make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already to never miss any of our previews during the 2025 NFL season. All right, so we got 3 minutes. Last call here to get your Super Chats, your Venmos in, to get in on the hat raffle. We're going to give away a hat today to one lucky Steelers fan. And you guys got about 3 minutes to get your name in the ring. All right. So while you guys are getting those Super Chats in, Ponzi, let's talk a little bit here about Monday Night Football, all right? Chicago, Soldier Field tonight. You got Ben Johnson in his coaching debut for the Chicago Bears with Caleb Williams going up against Brian Flores and that excellent Vikings defense. And, of course, you got J.J. McCarthy. I think the big story here, obviously, is 2 things. Number 1, Ben Johnson versus Brian Flores. Yep. Those 2 are some of the best play callers on their sides of the football in the game. It's an awesome matchup, all right? But then number 2, how the hell does Caleb Williams and J.J. McCarthy look in their first action as NFL quarterbacks? Completely unproven entities at this point in their careers.
I mean, I think both of them are kind of in the same group. I mean, Caleb Williams kind of had a rookie year. He did have, play, I think, all of it, right? And did he get injured 1 week? But either way, he had a really rough rookie year. A lot of people thought he was going to be a lot better than he was. But, I mean, J.J. McCarthy sat out the whole year last year. So these are guys coming into new systems. I mean, of course, McCarthy has the upper hand of learning the system. But Ben Johnson's offense is very complex. Apparently, there's been struggles in training camp. I mean, it's going to be really the battle of unproven QBs. I mean, it's going to be really tough. I don't really think it's going to be that high scoring of a game.
Yeah, we'll see for sure. I will say Ben Johnson has had Brian Flores' number when he was in Detroit, but he had Jahmyr Gibbs, he had David Montgomery, he had an insane O-line, and he had Jared Goff, who was a perfect fit for that system. And what they really did is, they kind of manipulated the linebackers to all hell there in that Brian Flores system, where they like to run a lot of palms. They like to run a lot of those, 2 high safety type of blitzes. They, of course, love to play cover 0 as well. Actually, I don't know if you guys knew this, but Brian Flores actually got a lot of his defensive system from Pat Narduzzi, the Pitt head coach. When he was working for the Pittsburgh Steelers, he picked Narduzzi's brain on what the Panthers do and have been doing for a long time with kind of their cover 4 kind of blitzes and their cover 0 stuff and those cover 2 blitzes that the Panthers run all the time. Frankly, I'm surprised the Steelers haven't used that stuff more. They kind of run kind of Tomlin's kind of shit, which is kind of why if they fire Tomlin, Ponzi, and like this season is a disaster and they end up firing him, like that's why Brian Flores is like my number 1 choice to bring in here as the new Steelers head coach, because I would love to see that style of defense with a very aggressive Flores-style defense here in Pittsburgh with the talent we got here. I think it would be maybe probably more effective than the very cover 3 based Tampa 2 fire zone based defense that Mike Tomlin's been running. for the last 20 years.
I think he's honestly like the top candidate of the short list of who the Steelers would bring in. I mean, Brian Flores.
Now, there's a couple downsides. Number one, and both of them have to do with him being a defensive head coach.
Yeah.
Okay, now the Steelers, throughout their history have been a defensive head coach team. They always hire defensive-minded guys. But the downside to that in the modern NFL is that it's an offensive league, right? So if you have a great OC, they're going to get poached to be a head coach somewhere else. And then also in terms of quarterback development, if you're bringing in a new quarterback, Brian Flores, red flags galore because of what he did to Tua Tagovailoa in Miami, at least allegedly.
We were talking about that today.
Yeah, we were talking about that today in the office. So, Flores is certainly somebody that I think has the charisma and the presence to replace a Tomlin, which is going to be very difficult to do because Tomlin's one of the most charismatic people in sports, not even the NFL, in sports. All right. So, we do not care. Absolutely. So if you're going to be replacing his shoes in that locker room and you want the players to respect you, Flores is one of the guys that I think that they would because he's been with them. Like they know who he is. He's been with the team, all that different stuff, and they know his resume as well. As a Super Bowl winning defensive coordinator and play caller, he's obviously had a ton of success there in Minnesota. So it's just going to be interesting to see that dynamic. J.J. McCarthy, Caleb Williams. I kind of hope both of them suck tonight, because we play both these teams this year. So, coming away from this game saying, oh, baby, we can get 2 of these wins here against these 2 teams would be great. But if I have to pick a team here, guys, I'm going to pick the Bears. I'm going to go 24-17. Bears win tonight. I think Caleb will do enough good things to win. I think JJ will have his struggles. I think Dennis Allen's defense will impress tonight. JJ McCarthy, first game. I think it's going to get to a point, Ponzi, where he's going to be asked to kind of carry the team and have to pass when the defense knows he's throwing it. And that's a completely new experience for him. He hasn't played a meaningful football game in 20 months, Ponzi. So, I'm going to go with Caleb Williams here. I believe in the process there with Ben Johnson. I don't think either of these teams is like a Super Bowl contender this year, frankly. We'll see how McCarthy plays, but I think the Vikings have the better team. But with the home field advantage, with Caleb having a little bit of NFL experience under his belt, I'm going to go in a close one. Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson win this one 24-17.
We're in agreement here. I kind of have it a little bit low scoring. I do have a safety. I do think Williams gets sacked for a safety. I think, honestly, the Bears might just have the upper hand just because of Ben Johnson. I think he's going to have a simplified version of the game plan to beat Flores on defense, and I think it's going to work. I haven't really seen a lot of adjustments from Flores. They had their chances last year against, the Lions and Ben Johnson's offense, but, they had a chance to even take the division if they won one of those games. But, it's just, it comes down to how good is J.J. McCarthy going to be? And, I said it, in the office, we could easily be seeing another type of Trey Lance situation where he hasn't played in 3 years. Or 2 years and a half. But it's kind of rough to gauge a quarterback off of that. He could be the best thing since sliced bread, or he could just be bad. So there's really no in between. I really hope J.J. McCarthy could pull it through, but I do think the Bears have the upper hand at least for tonight.
Yeah, and we do have a little bit of news on the Bears front. Considering changing my pick here, Jalen Johnson is inactive tonight.
Oh, that actually does change a lot.
So Justin Jefferson is going to have Tyreek Stevenson on him tonight. I'm changing my pick. I'm going Vikings tonight, man. I think Jalen Johnson being out is huge. Now, on the other hand, Christian Darrisaw is also out. Ian Rappaport just reported Christian Darrisaw, the excellent left tackle for Minnesota, is also out. So I think Jalen Johnson's the bigger inactive piece there. I'm going to go with the Vikings. I'll go 23-21 Vikings win.
I'm a man of my word. I'll stick with my pick.
All right. Ponzi's sticking with his pick. I'm taking the Vikings. He's taking the Bears. I just think Jalen Johnson was a big reason why I picked the Bears because he can play against Justin Jefferson, at least somewhat. But now you got Stevenson or Kyler Gordon on JJ. I don't think that's going to go well, man. I'm going to go 23-21 Vikes win. Gary Frank says Vikings by 7. Robert Locke is here, says, hey, y'all. Sorry I'm late. It's all good, man. But that's we're going to do our raffle, and we're going to get out of here.
Get this raffle set up.
So we got football here in a couple hours. So let's give away a Steelers Talk hat here, folks. If you want to put my email down in the L3 when you get a chance there, Ponzi.
There we go.
All right, excuse me. All right.
Shuffling the wheel. Let's give away a hat.
All right, let's give away a hat. Let's go. Appreciate everyone that donated to the show today. Over $100 yet again, which means we're giving away another Steelers Talk hat today. Brandon Nicholson. Brandon, are you still here? Brandon, let us know in the chat if you are still here. We will give him about a minute or two here. Donna Elliott says, have a great night. Donna, you have a great night. Hot Rod 24 thinks 20-16 Vikings tonight. Raymond says, you can call me Brandon if you like. Is Brandon still here? Brandon Nicholson.
I believe he super chatted.
He did super chat. Gary Frank says, hey, Jack, Sunday I'll be donating at least one hat, if not two. All right, cool, Gary Frank. Can't wait for that.
We see him?
I do not see him.
Give him 1 minute.
Yeah, we'll give him a minute here. Brandon, if you are here, let us know in the chat. I don't want to spin the wheel again and you say, oh, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. Got to be present to win the raffle because you got to give me that, because you got to send me an email. 40 seconds here, Brandon, and then we're going to give it away. Gary Frank, yes, I did get your email about the Black Diamond. Yes, I did.
Hot Rod says, like, you mean like yesterday, Sperry?
What do you mean?
When we had, what was his name?
Oh yeah, when the fake DS guy came in and tried to claim the prize by changing his name.
Hey, I can't.
Robert Locke is asking if we got an update on Steelers Dad. I have not gotten an update since the last time I updated you guys. Also, according to Kyle Shanahan, George Kittle with a hamstring will be out a few weeks.
Also, Brock Purdy has a lingering issue.
What's his deal?
I saw it on my Twitter.
It's okay. You don't have to look it up.
I think it was his elbow.
Well, that's not good.
No, left shoulder and toe injury.
So two things. Well, that's not good. And then he got Achilles tendonitis in Christian McCaffrey's Achilles tendon at his age.
Yeah.
That's just a ticking time bomb, man. They already have a bunch of injuries to their receiver room. Juwan Jennings is now injured too. George Kittle's down now. That Niner team, man, they just can't stay healthy.
All right. Well, I don't think Brandon's here.
All right, so we will spin again here. Then we'll get out of here.
Oh, not again. I'll just remove him from the wheel.
Yeah, just remove him altogether. All of his entries. F. Ponzi in the chat.
My bad. I didn't even think.
That's just common sense.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right. Let's spin that wheel. Still got over 240 people watching live. Thank you guys for sticking with us here. Gary Frank says F. Ponzi, LOL. All right, spin that wheel. Once all the Brandons are out of there.
Brandons are gone.
All right, is this Paul Boone? All right, I got Paul's Venmo information. So Paul, if you want to send me an email if you're watching, feel free to do so. Otherwise, I will reach out on Venmo, or you can send me your shipping address on Venmo. Whatever you want to do, Paul. We'll get you a hat. If you want Ponzi and I to sign it, let us know. And that's going to be it for today's show, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. A reminder, all right, we're not going to be going live on our normal Thursday live show day. We're going to be going live on Friday instead. All right, so make sure you join us on Friday at our normal time, 5 p.m. Eastern, and then we have our watch party on Sunday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern on Sunday, okay? So that is our live schedule for the rest of the week. We will see you guys on Friday. Until next time, guys, here we go, Steelers.